Hi guys. I don't know if you can hear. So we're going to start really soon with this session. So I'm going to be talking about screen time and how to reduce it for your children. What do you do if your child is actually, using screen time while eating? If that's the way you feed your child. So just going to wait a minute to get some more people coming in, and then I will start the session. Okay, so it's 3. I'm gonna start the session. So firstly, I'd like to introduce myself. Hi, my name is Aditi Nahata. I'm a child nutritionist. So my job is basically to help parents confidently nourish their children. There's a lot of sometimes ifs and hows and what to do. So I do that. I firmly believe that it's more important or equally important to focus on how you're feeding your child over what to feed your child, which is why we're having this session today. Because if you're feeding your child using the screen versus having a mealtime that doesn't have any distractions, that's the topic I am here to address today. Okay, so while we do the session, I'm going to try to answer as many questions as possible. If I do miss any questions and I'm not able to answer them, please get in touch with me on my Instagram. That is VIRAJNAHATA, Viraj Nahata. You can find me on Instagram. I always answer each and every message that I get. I will be sure to answer any questions that I might miss today. So let's get started. So we're talking about screens today. Now, firstly, when I talk about screens, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about why screens are not the best thing to give your child to help your child eat his or her food. And then I'm going to suggest some ways on how best to, if that's something you're already doing, and how best to eliminate that. So before I say why you should not give the screen to your child, what I really want to say is that please don't judge yourself, because everyone make mistakes. I've made mistakes. I've learned from them, and that's the only reason that I'm here today, is because I have taken those steps to solve them. And today I'm here to help you solve those mistakes, particularly screen time. So firstly, I think we should just celebrate, how hard parenting is, especially in this difficult time where we're all stuck at home. Feeding a child is not a joke. It is a very, very tough job. So hats off to all the mothers out there that are doing it and are doing such a fabulous job of it. So screens. Now let's talk about screens. So I get it. Screens works. Most kids, बच्चा को खाना नहीं खाना है, उसको स्क्रीन के सामने बिठा दो और वो आराम से जो खाना आपने बनाया वो सब चीज बहुत आराम से खा लेगा. Every parent has a very valid reason for putting the child in front of the screen, whatever it be. It may be your personal situation, and maybe that you just don't want to cook 3 things for 3 different people, and it could be that your house structure, your meal structure, मतलब जो भी reason है वो valid होगा. I'm sure about it. लेकिन we all have to accept that this is a problem. So why is screens a problem? मतलब ये अपने बच्चे के लिए स्क्रीन देख के रोज रोज खाना ये प्रॉब्लम क्यों है? सबसे फर्स्ट, it's because it can train the children to depend on the screen. मतलब आपके पास जिस दिन स्क्रीन नहीं होगा वो बच्चा खा नहीं पाएगा, and that will cause you stress and ultimately cause the child stress. The second thing is that it keeps the kids fussy. मतलब जो बच्चा fussy है, जो जल्दी से हर चीज नहीं खाता है, जो हर vegetable नहीं खाता है, it really keeps them picky. It doesn't help them try all sorts of vegetables. That is the second reason. I'm going to explain this in a minute. And the third reason is जो खाने के टाइम जो बच्चा को benefits जो सीखना चाहिए वो बच्चा नहीं सीख पाता है. So these are the three main reasons why screens are not helpful. I'm not going to talk about eyes. I'm not going to talk about all those things because those are not related to eating. Of course, screens are not good for children. There is a limit. Every parent has their individual choice कि कितना बच्चा को screen दिखाना चाहिए. So I'm not here to A, judge you on that or B, tell you what that should be. मैं आपको सिर्फ खाने के लिए क्यों screens नहीं देना चाहिए and उसको कैसे solve करते हैं, I'm going to help you with that today. So the first reason, as I said, was बच्चे उस पर डिपेंडेंट हो जाते हैं. जिस दिन आपका फोन का बैटरी थोड़ा लो हो या आईपैड का बैटरी थोड़ा लो हो, मॉम स्ट्रेसिंग, बच्चा उस दिन खाना नहीं खाएगा ठीक से. द सेकंड रीजन आई सेड कि बच्चा वो हर चीज खाना जो हम लोग सोचते हैं कि स्क्रीन दे दो तो कुछ भी खा लेगा, पर एक्चुअल में क्या वो हर चीज खाना सीख रहा है. सो व्हाई डज दैट हैपन? सो क्या होता है जब हम लोग बच्चे को स्क्रीन देते हैं, देयर ब्रेन्स get disengaged from their food. मतलब वो लोग अपने जो 5 senses जो बच्चे को यूज करने चाहिए खाने के टाइम, seeing, touching, smelling, tasting, वो उनके senses screen की वजह से numb हो जाते हैं. When a child is supposed to do all these things to tolerate a new food, आप कोई नया चीज बच्चा के सामने रख रहे हो और वो बच्चा को उस चीज को अगर वो खाना सीखे, accept करे कि yes, I want to try this. When they accept that they want to try, they accepted the smell, they accepted touch, taste, texture, all of those things of the food, and they can only do that if they have seen the food in reality without being distracted by a screen. So suddenly अगर आप एक दिन suddenly screen ले चलो तो मतलब something as simple as दाल चावल जो suppose आपका बच्चा रोज screen देख देख के रोज खा रहा था, उसके लिए वो एक suddenly बहुत नया food हो जाता है. Suddenly उसका जो smell है वो बहुत strong हो जाता है. It becomes a very new scary food and it's a new experience all over again, even though maybe your child has been eating it for a period of a year or maybe 2 years, because they have not experienced that food before. They have only seen it on the side, not paid attention to it. It's something जो बच्चा मतलब देख रहा है और मुंह खोल के खा रहा है. So they have not experienced fully. They have not had that full experience of that food. They have not learned कि अगर ये खाना मेरे को थोड़ा challenging लग रहा है खाने में, तो how do I accept the taste, the smell, all these things about the food. And when your child will experience food in terms of taste, smell, texture, all these things, that is when they will be more and more open to trying new foods. हम सर हर माँ तो यही चाहते हैं ना कि बच्चा हर चीज वैरायटी में खाए, ये ट्राई करे वो ट्राई करे. तो अगर आप उसको ट्राइंग के लिए वो टूल्स जो बच्चे को चाहिए, अगर आप स्क्रीन से वो टूल्स को ही खत्म कर दोगे तो बच्चा वेरी डाइट, बैलेंस डाइट कैसे खाना सीखेगा. So that is the second reason why screens are not good. Now the third reason is that वो बच्चा को जो खाने के टाइम जो सीखना चाहिए, जो फायदा होना चाहिए, वो नहीं होता है. Now what are those things? मतलब what is the things that you're wondering कि हाँ ठीक है खाना तो सीख रहा है, मतलब और उसको क्या सीखना चाहिए बच्चा को खाने के टाइम. So the things that a child should be learning when eating is number 1, learning to listen to their body. Is it full or is it hungry? That is a very important skill. और वो कोई बाहर से नहीं सीख सकता है, वो अंदर से उसको एक्सपीरियंस करके ही सीखना पड़ेगा. अगर बच्चा मतलब सपोज एक दिन he's had a good day, he's exercised and उसके पास एक फल का खाने का ही जगह है, वो एक फल का खा के अगर उसका पेट उसको बोल रहा है कि अब मुझे और खाने का इच्छा नहीं है, that child should be able to tell you कि mom I'm full, मुझे और नहीं खाना है. और अगर हम लोग बच्चे के सामने स्क्रीन डाल देंगे तो वो तो खाते जाएगा, उसको तो पता नहीं कि उसका पेट भर गया. उसको his brain is not able to take that signal because his brain is so distracted by the screen. So that's the first thing. The second thing is learning table manners. टेबल पे अपने सब साथ में बैठे तो there's something that manners that जो बच्चा सबके साथ बैठ के सीखता है, वो दूसरे को देखता है. This is how I use a fork, this is how I use a spoon, this is ग्लास को राइट साइड में रखते हैं, सूप स्पून ऐसा होता है, सैलड स्पून अलग होता है, सैलड फॉर्क, ऑल दीज थिंग्स जो बच्चा देख के सीखता है, वो स्क्रीन अगर आप उसके सामने रख दोगे तो वो नहीं सीख पाएगा, एंड देन देयर इज वर्बल स्किल्स। अब हाउ डू यू हैव अ डिनर कॉन्वर्सेशन, बच्चा टेबल पे बैठ के कैसे बात करते हैं, क्या बात करते हैं, बिल्डिंग रिलेशनशिप्स विद द पीपल अराउंड यू, watching parents eat, how to eat. Sometimes children like to see parents की अरे मेरा पापा तो दाल चावल हाथ से खा रहा है, मुझे भी ये ट्राई करना है. So that is a skill that they can only learn if they see you do it. नहीं तो बस बच्चा मुंह खोल रहा है और आप डाले जा रहे हो और वो स्क्रीन पर देख रहा है. So जब ये सब benefits बच्चा मिस कर देता है, it creates more problems in the future and it makes them harder to eat a varied and balanced diet. So this is the main reason why screens are not good while feeding your child. तो हो सकता है आपको बस ये बात समझ आ गई. अब बोले ये सब तो ठीक है, लेकिन अगर मैं स्क्रीन हटा दूंगी मेरा बच्चा का मील टाइम से, तो वो तो फिर खाना ही आधा कर देगा, तब मैं क्या करूं? So you should not be concerned about that. The reason for that is because, for example, when kids hit 1, जैसे वो 1 साल के होते हैं, you will suddenly experience that, oh my god, मेरा बच्चा तो इतना कम खा रहा है, that he was eating fine and then suddenly he hits 1 and no, वो तो नहीं खा रहा, अब तो उसको स्क्रीन दे दो भाई, नहीं तो वो खाएगा ही नहीं. So that is actually a very, very normal behavior, because जो 6 months से जो 12 months जब बच्चा, generally we start feeding kids at 6 months. That's according to the WHO guidelines, that is when we start feeding the kids, right? So 6 to 12 months the child is growing rapidly. मतलब जो growth बच्चा का, they're learning to sit, they're learning to crawl, then they're learning to walk, they're learning all these things. Their body is growing tremendously. As soon as they hit 1, उनका जो growth level होता है वो कम हो जाता है. So they don't actually need that much food that they did when they were younger. So it's not that suddenly वो कम खा रहा है. I mean, it is that वो suddenly कम खा रहा है, but his body does not need that much food. That is why वो कम खा रहा है. And it's not something parents उस बात को लेके इतना stress हो जाते हैं और फिर suddenly बोलते हैं अब जो चलो screen दे दो. So that is not a reason to give screen. ये एक milestone है. जैसे walking is a milestone the kid will hit. Speaking is a milestone the kid will hit. Eating one, that kid will hit that milestone of eating less food. So please don't stress कि screen देते हो कम खा रहा है. हो सकता है वो कम खाए, but he is just listening to his body. You have to trust your child that he is eating how much his body is telling him to eat. And this is coming from a mom whose child, like I have a 5-year-old child, and I apply this with my child, and my child is actually underweight, but he eats a varied diet. He eats how much he wants, and I am okay with that. I'm comfortable with that because I know that that is normal for his age. So that is not a reason to give screens. And second reason is that a lot of mothers do give screens because सोचते कि बच्चा तो टेबल पे बैठता ही नहीं है, वो इधर उधर भागते रहता है. So again, that is a skill that the child will not learn if you give him the screen. वो सीखेगा ही नहीं, वो इतना hyper हो जाएगा. He will need that kind of stimulation to be in one place. और हम लोग चाहते हैं कि बच्चा खाना पे कॉन्सेंट्रेट करके 10-15 मिनट खाना के टेबल पे अच्छे से बैठ के खाए. So I will just talk about how to get your child to do this. So if this is why you're giving the screen, please don't give it. And I've just explained to you a couple of reasons why screen time is bad for children when they are eating. So it's really not okay. It's something, if you've done it, you've done it. I've done it. Everyone has done it. It served us well. वो purpose जो हम जो purpose के लिए screens दे रहे थे वो it served us. It served its purpose, and now we are moving on, and now we're trying to change that. And this is the best time to actually do that, because now we have all this time with our child, 100% time where we can actually be there and help our children learn how to eat without a screen. So now I'm going to talk about how to do this. So no screens at mealtime. So what is our strategy? Our strategy is to provide our children a mealtime structure that is free of distractions, and they have a very set routine, so they know when their meals are coming. They're not running away. They know कि हाँ मुझे अब खाना है. And जब हम लोग खाना बच्चा को देंगे, there should be no distractions. So no TV, no books, no toys. They should be able to really 100% concentrate and focus on their food. So very easy, sounds great. हाँ ये तो सबको करना चाहिए. अब question ये है कि ये कैसे करें, right? So how do we do this? So the foundation of what I teach is basically called the division of responsibility. अगर आप इसको apply करोगे तो आधा stress जो आपको खाने के लिए होता है वो सब हट जाएगा. Now, what is that division of responsibility? It means that parents are responsible for some parts of the meal and the child is responsible for the other parts of the meal. And जो child का responsibility है, जो child जो child के पास control है वो खाने के लिए, that we have to trust the child. We cannot be nagging and poking कि और खाओ, 2 ही फल का खाया, just had 1 फल का, और खाओ, because that will, completely ruin the whole thing that we are trying to achieve. And that will stress you, that will stress the child, and ultimately इतना pressure अगर आप बच्चा को आप दोगे कि इतना खाओ, वो बच्चा खाने से डरेगा, वो बच्चा खाने से भागेगा, he will feel very stressed to go and sit on the table to eat because he knows that, oh my god, फिर मम्मी पीछे पड़ने वाली है. So that is not what we're trying to do. What is our job as parents? Our job as parents is to provide a mealtime environment that is free of distractions, and we have to provide a well-balanced diet. And what is the child's responsibility is to decide if he wants to eat it. There have been times when my child has eaten enough throughout the day, according to him, what his body is telling him. He'll sit at dinner and says, Mom, I'm really not feeling like eating. And I say, that's okay, Viraj. This is your meal. You can choose to eat it. You can choose not to eat it. अगर आप अभी नहीं खाओगे, तो आप सो के फिर सीधा आपको सुबह breakfast मिलेगा. And that is okay. Maybe that is what his body is telling him, and we have to accept that. Because if we force our child to eat, we're going to achieve exactly the opposite. Is we're going to push our child away from wanting to eat the food. So we decide what food is served, where the food is served, and when it is served. And we have to provide a mealtime environment that is free of distractions, so children can get all the benefit that they need from that mealtime. So now, how are we going to provide this environment which is free of distractions, right? So to do this, I would say that you would have to change your mindset, change your expectations. Consider it like weaning. आप बच्चा को breastfeeding से wean करते हो, bottle से wean करते हो. So it really depends from child to child. कोई बच्चा के लिए बहुत easy होता है, बहुत easily bottle छोड़ देते हैं या बहुत easily breastfeeding छोड़ देते हैं, and कोई बच्चा नहीं कर पाता है. So if you sort of give it that mindset that this is what I'm weaning my child, that will make it easier for you to deal with it, talk to your child about it, and know how much to expect. You cannot expect कि आप एक दिन में वो आदत छुड़ा दोगे. No child will be able to deal with that. So how do we do this? How do we wean our children from the screen? It's a very gradual process. And while you're weaning your children off the screen, the first thing you should do is stop feeding your children. Research has really shown that feeding our children is a bad idea, because again, they get the opportunity to be distracted, not pay attention to their food. And as soon as they're able to eat, they should be encouraged to eat themselves. And yes, I'm even talking about 1.5-year-old children, because that really happens. There are children at that age. And can you imagine आपका कितना stress कम हो जाएगा जब 1.5 साल का बच्चा, 2 साल का बच्चा अपने आप खा रहा है, आपका सिर्फ जॉब है कि उसके पास बैठ जाओ और he's sitting with the family, and आप आपका खाना provide कर दो और वो अपने आप खा रहा है. And yes, it is possible for your child to do this from a very, very young age, if this is what you have inculcated from the beginning. And if you haven't inculcated this from the beginning, it is 100% possible for you to get to that stage with your child. That is what I teach. That is my job, to teach you this. Okay. So now, how are we going to wean our child from the screen? So if you think that cold turkey, मतलब एक दिन में screen बंद कर दो और वो चलेगा, that's fine. But from my experience, 98% of the families cannot do this. Okay. We need to use something a little gentler. थोड़ा आराम से बच्चा को समझा के वो change करते हैं. So small changes at a time, and we have to keep in mind that as parents, we are not doing something mean. We are not, we're not doing this horrible thing to a child. We are very gently, very lovingly trying to change a habit that they have. So when we wean, what do? We wean with intention. मतलब हमको ये करना है. We do it as fast as is reasonable and as fast as your child can accept. And number 3, हम लोग गिव इन नहीं करेंगे, हम लोग उनका बात नहीं मानेंगे. पेरेंट्स हम हैं, डिसीजन हमारे ऊपर है, और उनको ये बात धीरे धीरे समझ आ जाएगा. Just the way when you stop breastfeeding your child finally understood that mama is not going to give this to me. Either they forgot about it, and it's very possible that your child will forget about the screen if you don't give it to your child at this time, and then they just moved on. So that is what we have to do. So now we start small, okay? There are a couple of ways you can do this because every family is different. Every family structure is different. No, some people live in nuclear families, some people live with dada dadi, some people live with, a different kind of family routine, meal routine, papa kab kha raha hai, mummy kab kha raha hai. So you have to see ki aapka family structure aur aapka meal habits kaise hain. So we start small. So what you could do is first start, give your child your food and wait till they ask ki mama phone do. See how many minutes that is. If that is suppose 2 minutes, तो कल आप 3 मिनट्स करो, फिर आप 4 मिनट्स करो, and maybe अगर आप वो भी वर्क नहीं कर रहा है तो maybe you start with the TV on mute. So maybe they can see but they can't hear, and maybe they have a little more attention to give to their food, and gradually we ask them to give more and more attention to their food. Maybe you could turn it off after 5 minutes or wait 10 minutes before putting it on, or slowly increase the length of the time as they gradually become more and more comfortable with the TV or the screen or the phone or the iPad, whatever it is, with it off. And if this is also too hard, which is possible, I understand that this is also hard because some children have a lot of anxiety around food, and that's probably, the reason why you actually gave screens in the first place, कि उनको बच्चा को खाने में बहुत प्रॉब्लम हो रहा है, वो खाने को एक्सेप्ट ही नहीं कर पा रहे हैं, तो आपको ऐसे लगा कि स्क्रीन दे दो तो खा लेगा. तो अगर आपने इस रीजन के लिए स्क्रीन दिया है तो हो सकता है आपके बच्चे को बहुत प्रॉब्लम हो रही है खाना एक्सेप्ट करने में, तो हम लोग जो डिस्ट्रैक्शन है उसको चेंज कर सकते हैं. दिस इज द स्मॉलर स्टेप. The first step I said was, start 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes without the screen, and then maybe give it a little later. And if you cannot do this as well, a smaller step is to change the distraction. मतलब आप, टीवी नहीं देके आप बुक पढ़ लो, गेम खेलो, लूडो खेलते खेलते खाओ. So you are changing the distraction. So while they are still not 100% paying attention to their food, they are still able to do it more than they did when they were watching the screen. So the most important thing is that when you are deciding to wean your child from the screen, you have to make sure that वो ऐसा टाइम पर है जब आप आपके बच्चे को टाइम दे सको, आप उनको समझा सको, एंड यू कैन एक्चुअली मॉडल की ऐसे खाना चाहिए. they have that ability to sit at the table and watch you all eat, because eating together as a family with distractions where बच्चा सिर्फ खाने पर फोकस कर रहा है कि मम्मी और कौन सा सब्जी बना है, या और मम्मी मतलब ये भी दे दो, देखो पापा तो वो खा रहा है, मुझे वो भी ट्राई करना है. This happens when you sit at a meal together with your family. And in today's time where we're all quarantined, that is very possible because everyone is at home, everyone is eating 3 meals a day. तो आप आपका बच्चा का रूटीन को adjust करो. I have adjusted my child's routine to meet everyone else's routine so that he can have that loving time with the family, because meals are such a thing that even sitting with your family and being able to watch their family eat and have a conversation gives children the feeling that they belong to a loving family, and unko ek sense of security wo feel hoga. It's a very psychological thing, and maybe when they feel that, they can start eating without a screen and start coping with the food that they could not deal with. Even if it's something as basic as dal chawal, wo jo screen ke bagair ho sakta hai, wo nahi kha pa rahe hain. So you have to understand that this is a very stressful thing for a child. Suddenly एक comfort जो बच्चा का हो रहा है उसको ले रहे हो बच्चा से. So the child will really need the parents there, be it the mother. उनको anxiety हो सकता है इस चीज से, उनको डर लग सकता है small change से, because it's a big deal. आप ये नहीं सोच सकते हो it's a small deal. ये बच्चा के लिए बहुत बड़ा deal है. Just like giving breastfeeding for a child is a big deal. वो जो माँ का जो comfort मिलता है बच्चा को breastfeeding से, उसको छोड़ के बच्चा को हो सकता है anxiety हो. In the same way, this is a comfort. It's a distraction that the child had to deal with food, and if you take it away, it could be very tough. So you have to be extra supportive during this time. They are learning how to do something new for them. You have to be very, very supportive, and they will look at you to understand ki how to deal with this. So ये आपका time और love इस time पे देना. Please don't be strict and please don't be mean कि नहीं ऐसे ही खाना मरेगा, ऐसे ही मिलेगा. No, because then they will get even more scared कि बच्चा अभी screen नहीं चल रहा है. I know you're sad, but this is now what we're doing. Or however you speak to your child, you be loving, provide a nurturing environment so that they don't feel scared of eating that food without the screen. Especially at the beginning, another thing I would suggest is to include familiar foods. मतलब जो बच्चा आराम से जो comfortably खा रहा है. I'm not saying that include French fries every day. ये तो मैं बात नहीं बोलूँगी. But there must be at least 4 to 5 foods that your child can comfortably eat without the screen. तो आप उनको try करो include करने में, just a small portion at the side, so your child can see a familiar food, so that your child is always finding something to eat that he's familiar with. और धीरे धीरे जब वो बाकी का food देखते जाएगा, maybe over a period of 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, your child keeps seeing these sabzis and these rotis and this different things that you're making, वो child के लिए familiar हो जाएगा. और जैसे ही वो child के लिए खाना familiar होता जाएगा, वो child खाना सीख जाएगा. That is a guarantee. I can tell you, you have to trust me on this. ये होगा, So the next thing you have to do is you make a change, right? You have made one change. So you have to keep making small changes every day. 1 minute say 2, 2 say 3, 3 say 4 without screen, Go from one meal without a screen. Suppose आपका बच्चा हर meal screens के साथ खा रहा है. तो go for 1 minute, one meal without the screen, maybe it's breakfast. And then you decide, okay, breakfast is working well or not so well now, but now it's time to change it to 2. Now it's time to change it to 3. Or go from a like book distraction to like an audio book distraction to like maybe just a visual distraction that is not screen. So every day आपको थोड़े changes करने पड़ेंगे. And the most important thing is, कुछ भी हो, please don't change back. That can be even more stressful for the kids because they get confused. Be like, अरे कल तो screen नहीं था, आज तो मम्मी screen दे दी, ये क्या हो रहा है? And they will make it even harder for you. They'll think you're not serious. आपके लिए बहुत मुश्किल हो जाएगा इस चीज को apply करने में. So एक बार आपने decision ले लिया, please don't go back. Yes, they will learn to eat without the screen. As long as parents आप consistent हो, वो लोग 100% सीखेंगे. आपको एग्जाम्पल सेट करना पड़ेगा. एंड द नेक्स्ट थिंग यू हैव टू डू इज टू adjust your expectations. 15 minutes of sitting at the table for a toddler is very very long. आप ये नहीं सोच सकते कि कोई बच्चा 15 मिनट जो स्क्रीन में ना बैठा ही नहीं है, वो नेक्स्ट डे 15 मिनट टेबल पे बैठ जाए खाने के ऊपर अटेंशन देके. वो नहीं होने वाला है. तो अगर आपके एक्सपेक्टेशंस थोड़े कम हो जाएंगे तो बच्चा को भी वो स्ट्रेस नहीं होगा टू मीट योर एक्सपेक्टेशंस. सेट अ टाइमर फॉर लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल 5 मिनट्स की हाँ बच्चा 5 मिनट्स बैठ गया, एंड देन एक मिनट करके आप बढ़ाओ कि हाँ आज वो 6 मिनट्स बैठा. एंड दैट इज हाउ यू शुड मैनेज योर एक्सपेक्टेशंस. So this is all very easy. Now what will happen agar your child will throw a tantrum, which believe me is likely to happen. It is very difficult. So the most important part of this thing which I just explained to you is that you have to be sure that you are providing the mealtime structure. आपका हाथ डिसीजन में है. आप बहुत कॉन्फिडेंटली ये बोलेंगे कि बेटा अभी iPad या जो भी मोबाइल नहीं है, अभी यही है सिचुएशन. आपको ऐसे be loving. I'm not saying be mean, be loving, but be firm. Because when you are firm, the child will automatically know कि boundaries कहाँ है. अगर आप firm नहीं हो सकते, dilly dally करोगे, एक दिन दोगे दूसरे दिन नहीं दोगे, the child will understand that the power is in my hands. They will understand कि मुझे कितना देर रोना पड़ेगा स्क्रीन मिलने के लिए, कितना देर नाटक करना पड़ेगा, कितना देर ये करना पड़ेगा, और मेरे को जो चाहिए वो मिल जाएगा. Even if they are unhappy at first, that's really okay. As long as we are kind and we're loving, it doesn't mean that we go back. No, we do not go back. We be firm. So, we can make the changes smaller, we can make the increments slower, we can, do whatever it is necessary that will help our children transition, but we don't give in. So that is what we do, right? So, I think I have covered a great deal about it. There's no need to feel bad if your child is feeling bad to eat without the screen. You can't feel bad about it because from what I've explained to you today that, it is actually very good for your child. Your children need to be learning how to eat without food. So I think that is generally what I want to say. So I'm happy to answer any questions. So I have a question here that I'm gonna answer. My child is ready to eat without Madhavi Chalera. So my child is ready to eat without screen only if he's seeing his favorite recipes in plate, otherwise throwing tantrums. What to do? So this is one of the things I addressed, right? That is going to happen. You have to accept कि ये होगा. And if your child is really struggling to eat without the screen, maybe जो favorite चीज़ है आप थोड़ा सा उसको plate में दो और बाकी का जो आप बनाना चाहते हो, because देखो हर उसका favorite चीज़ रोज नहीं बन सकता. That's not practical or possible or healthy because you want your child to have a varied diet, right? So this is a main problem which a lot of parents say. जैसे कि अगर pizza हो या French fries हो या ये सब चीज़ हो तो मेरा बच्चा तो आराम से बिना screen का खा लेगा because he's paying attention to his food, he's enjoying that food. But जिस दिन मैं दाल चावल बनाऊंगी या खिचड़ी बनाऊंगी तो उस दिन my child will not eat at all. So that is probably because your child is scared of those foods. कभी कभी क्या होता है, बच्चा जो सब्जीज मिक्स हो जाती है, like दाल and चावल मिक्स होने से बच्चा नहीं खा पाता है. So you have to try maybe giving it separately. You have to try a lot of things that work for your child, but you cannot give in. Your child will eventually learn how to eat those foods as long as you are firm कि यही खाना है बेटा. I'm sorry, किचन तो एक ही बार खुलता है, एक ही बार खाना बनता है. I'm just giving you an example of what you can say. एक ही बार बनता है, अब यही खाना है. If you don't feel like eating it, it's okay. Don't put pressure on the child. The moment you put pressure on the child will understand that this is a button for mama. अगर मैं नहीं खाऊं तो मम्मा को बहुत तकलीफ होगा, मम्मा मुझे कुछ ना कुछ तो लास्ट में दे ही देगी. It's okay. It's not a big deal. नहीं खाएंगे. Even though अंदर में हो सकता है आपको तकलीफ हो, I know every mother will, feel that inside, but you will not show it to your child. That it's not a big deal. If you want to eat it, it's okay. If you don't want to eat it, it's okay. This is the food. If you don't eat now, then you're straight. Your next meal is in 2 hours, where you have snack and where you have this. इसके बीच में आपको कुछ नहीं मिलेगा. एक दिन, 2 दिन, तीसरा दिन, आप guarantee your child will learn that this is the food and this is what they have to eventually learn to eat, and they will try it, and they will maybe have some likes and dislikes, which is normal. All of us have that. That's not something that we can control, and they should have likes and dislikes, but we have to be firm. So the next question is it possible to have 0 screen time? Well, I can definitely say during meals it's possible. I apply this to myself and my family. We eat without any screen whatsoever. But I mean, outside of that, if he's having screen or not screen, that's totally a decision as a parent which you have to make. Especially in this quarantine, I feel parents are really struggling to constantly entertain their children at home. So if you feel that it really helps you, that's really fine. But I would not recommend it to do it to help them eat, because they are not experiencing food the way they should. So another question, how do you eat mindfully? Okay, so this is a question I feel that you can apply to yourself and your children, is to really talk about the food when you're sitting with your child at the table. You can really talk about, oh my god, it smells like something, or you can see broccoli and be like, oh my god, is this a mini tree? It's green in color just like a tree. Oh my god, is there a bird inside your tree? Let's see. And if you talk about your food in a very fun way, they are present. They are watching the food, they're smelling it, they're touching the texture. They can really tell that gobi and broccoli taste pretty similar, but one is green and one is white, and they look similar, but just the colors are different. And they will learn all these things if you don't give them a screen. And just paying attention to your senses, the smell, the taste, the texture, how it feels to touch, how it feels when you roast it versus boiling it, all these things, different ways of cooking the same thing, all these, paying attention to all those things and talking about it. I would never recommend you talk about a food and ask your child, do you like it? Because the moment you ask that to your child, oh beta, did you like it? He knows that you want that internal validation that yes, my child liked it. And what is your child going to do? Even if he loved it, he's going to tell you, mujhe to bhaya hi nahi. So please never ask your child how they felt about eating it, but you can talk about things to do with the food where you're drawing attention to the food. Okay, so another question is that, how is it okay to let baby watch TV while eating? No, it is not okay. Babies are very, very young. Screens are also not okay for such young babies, other than eating as well. So I don't recommend you do that at all. So how do I stop my baby from screen time? So how you stop your baby for screen time while foods is something I have just spoken about. But how do you stop your baby from screen time outside of foods is a question that you really have to ask yourself. Are you there? Are you ready to entertain your children? Especially in this quarantine, I think that's a tough one. I am personally do give my child the screen, not for eating, but otherwise, he gets it. He watches Ramayana, it's coming on TV. I don't mind if he watches that. I'm okay with it. So I allow it. I don't know what to say with that one. Great. So I think I've generally answered quite a few questions. If you have any more questions, please do get in touch with me on my Instagram. You can follow my page. I put a lot of nutritional related content there. I have a lot of Q&A sessions. Contact me, message me. I am happy to answer all your questions. So my Instagram is VIRAJNAHATA, Viraj Nahata. You can contact me there. Great. So thank you for a wonderful session. Hope you guys found it helpful. Thank you.